Okay. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'm sorry. Okay, all right, I'll be good. So basically, we're going to look at this piecewise function here. This is different than a lot of the other ones, so we'll call this guy a special case. The weird thing about it is being able to decode from the words and the diagram provided. So the first thing to look at here is to identify that it's saying that the total length of the playground is 800. I can see that that's been written right there as well, right? That they've included 800 centimeters. Why is this not working? There we go. So then it's talking about the fact that with a maximum height of 400, the first section of the playground, as seen on the graph, is scaled in centimeters, is represented by an absolute value function. So what they just told me there was this is 400 centimeters high. Okay? If I continue on, it starts to mention that this absolute value function, where if it continued, okay, has zeros of 0 and 400. So there's the first 0, origin, and there's the second 0, 400 and 0. Okay? Meaning, I now know that my h and k is 200 and 400. So I automatically have that. Now, from here, there's two approaches to figuring this guy out. Okay, I could continue to read through and diagnose the rest of the stuff, but I'm just going to work in this world here, knowing that I'm always going to find a rule to use a rule. So let's work on finding the absolute value.
So how'd you find the 200?
Because they said the zeros were 0 and 400, so I can just say my h is equal to z1 plus z2 divided by 2. So 0 plus 400 divided by 2 gives me an h of 200. Or what's halfway between 0 and 400? That's what it's asking. I didn't go through this formula because I figured we could do half of 400 easily. It's going to have that recorded too. That's great. I think I have system audio. Yeah, I selected system audio, so that's good. That's going to show up. All right. So all that to say, right now, I know I'm going to want to find the rule of this function, and there's two ways to go ahead and do it. Okay. The first being, right, it's an absolute value function. So if I start to list out right now, so step 1, absolute value function, y is equal to a x minus h plus k. I know I have this, and I know I have that. Okay? And I have two other points to use. So I can either approach it by using, and in fact, I'll go through, we know what the form looks like. I would always even start, to be honest with you, writing down the function and what it looks like, just so that you've shown me you know what we're working with. And then you can write down like a, h, k, x, y, what is it that I know? Right? So next to it, 200.
So we start with our absolute
400.
Our absolute function.
Yeah. 400 and 0. I know I'm likely going to need it at some point. So then from here, if I've got these 2 points and this guy right here, I can plug all of this stuff into here and rearrange and solve for A. Or, so I can do option 1, right? I can take, let's just say, the h and the k and 0, 0, and plug those things into the actual function and solve for it as I see it. Option 2, which Kiana saw right off the bat, was, well, don't I just have like 2 points on a line? Like I have 2 points on a line right there. So because I have these 2 points, can I not just go y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1? Which is a lot easier in my mind than trying to go through and rearrange all this stuff. So if you,
how would you show like the work? You just like say your final study.
A is equal to y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. And so then I would just choose like 0, or I'll go 400 minus 0. And then the other one was 200 minus 0. And I'm going to use the origin point because I'm lazy. So then my A value is equal to positive 2. What's the only thing I've got to do in this case? And that's why I kind of want to show this one. It's got to be negative because the diagram's facing downward. So then there we go. I can say negative 2. And that was the thing. If you wanted to take it as in, I know it's facing down, so I'll take these two. That's perfect. I just wanted to use the zeros, and that's it. Not to say that you can't do it this way. It's just, is it not more work to have to do this guy, remember all the rules, right? Boom, boom. A is equal to negative 2. So both ones give me the same result in the end. Okay, so now that I have that function, I know I'm likely going to need it, but I don't know how, so I'm going to just keep going through this guy. At a height of 200... I scared way too easy. At a height of 280 centimeters, a horizontal bridge with a length of 130 centimeters connects the first section of the playground to a slide. Okay, so the only thing I know right now is that this is at a height of 280. And I know that this is 130 centimeters wide. Okay? So that's important right now. And I'll leave you with that information. You can even go so far right now as to write in that this is an unknown x with a y of 280. And that this is 130. Okay? You know me, I like to write everything out on the diagram to try and see if it makes sense. Okay? So let's keep going down and see what I can do with that. Okay? So that 130 bridge connects to a playground that has a slide that is represented by a square root function with vertex P. Okay? So let's go up and see what is it. Oh, so that's saying at that handoff point, that's going to be my HK for this square root function. Okay? And additionally, they've told me right now, and this one's a little kind of weird to wrap your brain around, a support beam with a height of 163 centimeters is placed under the slide, but that's 271 centimeters from the first support beam. So let's take a look at it. Again, we're just adding all the information that we know right now. What did they just tell me? 271 away from the first one and 163 high.
Give you 11. So it's going to be 471. Which gives you the X.
So did you give it?
Say it again?
It gives you the X and the Y for that point.
It gives me an X and Y for that point right there. So it doesn't label it as a point, but what it's saying is that, okay, I can figure out what this point is on that square root function because they've said it's 271 away from the first support beam, which means, what's the X of that?
471.
471. Beauty. So then now 471 and 163 because that's what it told me. So now I have the knowledge of if I get P, I'm going to get the H and K of the square root function, which I can plug in with this XY to find the A, which will then allow me to get into this function here. Problem is, I don't know what point P is right now. I know what the Y is. The Y is going to be 280 for point P. It was a constant function. So this is also...
Isn't it just like a basic y equals an x plus b? It's just a straight line. So can you just solve for x in that thing and then just do the rest of it?
Yeah. So that's the crux of this question is now that I've got everything on here, what I'm going to do is it's all downhill from here. I've just got to find the point that this guy runs into that guy, add 130 to it. I get my H and K, plug in the H and K with that XY, get the rule of the square root function, and then figure out what the height of that guy is at the end.
What is x when y is 280?
So what is x when y is 280? And so what you can do is plugging it into this guy is not going to be helpful because it's a constant function, so that's useless. So I plug it into that's why we got the absolute value function. So now, I should get my better microphone in here too. So step 2, y is equal to a x minus h plus k. We're going to find x when y is 280 using this as a rule. X minus 200 plus 400
390, yeah. Keep going, but I'm like, I'm at the end, but I gotta probably.
plus 400. So from here, I'm just going to kind of verbalize what I'm walking through here. Bring the 400 over. Be subtracting 400 from both sides, right? So I'm going to end up with my negative 120 is equal to negative 2x minus 200. And then from there, divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, x minus 200. Nice that I got a positive 60. At this stage is where I'm going to break things off. Yeah. So positive 60 is equal to x minus 200. And it's that point where I've isolated for this guy right here that I can now break it off. I've got a number on one side. I've got brackets x minus 200 on the other side. And then now 60 is equal to x minus 200. 60 is equal to x, or negative 60 is equal to x minus 200. And then I can solve for both. The only difference is I'm going to have two different answers, right? Right. Do I want x is 260 or do I want x is 140? 260. I'm going to accept that one and reject the other one. Question? So just to point out up here, you found two values, 140 and 260. So that means what I just found is that this value here is 260.
Okay, so we solved for x.
So we found the x. So now I actually have, so step 3, find rule square root function. So y is equal to a, x minus h plus k, where in terms of what is it that I know, start using different colors here. The a value in this is unknown right now. The h is going to be 260 plus 130 because it was the extension of the bridge, right? So I'm going to have 300, 390. My k is still 280. 280, okay. And then in terms of an xy, we have that 471 and 163. So now I can plug all of that into that square root function. The 163 is equal to a is my only unknown. 471 minus 390 plus 280. And then rearrange and solve for the a. So leaving me with, sure, 163 is equal to a square root of 81. Usually that number is going to be pretty when it comes to these. If not, it kind of just makes it a little more frustrating. Because now this is a lot easier. 163 is equal to a times 9 plus 280. I can bring that over. Have negative 117 is equal to a times 9. And then just divide by 9 on both sides. And get a is equal to negative 13. So now, if I back out, I have, we can see it here now. different color here. I have the h, I have the k, and I have the a for that function. So now let's go back in and take a look at what that final phrase is asking us to do, or question. A safety regulation requires that the end of the slide cannot exceed a height of 20 centimeters from the ground. Okay, so that's like Holly and my height. No? So then the last step on all this guy here is going to be step 4.
Set your X is 800.
Find x when y is equal to 20, it said. So then now I can just plug that into the function. So the point is that at that point, right, I'm going to know, right? I'm going to plug in the 20 and then say at that point, it can't exceed that. So these ones are like a, is it true that? Like, did they do it right? Square root of x minus 390 plus 280.
Can you do
And
it the
then-
other way too?
What other way?
Where you set your X is 800 because it's the end of the.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Either you're right, and actually that's probably easier, right? Because you're just solving for y.
It's an ugly number.
Is it an ugly number?
Yeah, same.
What'd you get?
60.77.
Okay, so it can't exceed 20, so you're fine.
Yeah,
But
fine.
yeah, either one works. You're right. So the options were find x when y is 40, or, so I'll just stay step 5, or find y when x is 800. And then that one's going to be easier just because 800 minus 390. But that is only going to be easy to do if what you square root is actually a pretty number. And yeah, so that's why that's going to be ugly. Either one will work. I'll show you both. Square root of 14. Plus 280.
Kind of close. I did it the Y way as well, and I think it ends up being, like your Y ends up being, or no, your X ends up being 790.
So I got negative 17.4.
So why don't you finish number 4?
So that I'm just going to show you that one's easier because solving for y is typically easier. But I'll go back and do that one now too. And that the solving for x with square root functions is a little bit tougher, but it's still a good skill set to have. So I'm going to bring the 280 over. So negative 260 is equal to negative 13. X minus 390. And that's a 260. And then I'll divide by negative 13. I'm always trying to work towards what's underneath whatever, or whatever's inside the brackets, whatever's underneath the square root, whatever's in the middle of the equation. B, X, H are all tied together. And then 260 divided by 13. Nice number. X minus 390. Now I take the square of both sides. So I'm going to square this side and square this side. So 400 is equal to x minus 390. Let's try that. Yeah, that's. So then when I solve for that guy there, I get, bringing him over, it can't, we would want it to be around 700, so it'd be 790. So x. Yeah, it does make more sense to solve for the y. Because if I saw that, I don't, in terms of disproving the statement, it would mean that, yeah, I would probably nix this guy and then solve it this way here. Because at least that way you can say, I have a final answer that fits within the 20 and go that way. I would still leave the work, but either one's fine.